I couldn't figure it out.
All right, hey, we're live, boys. Hey, everybody, welcome to KBN Live. We are coming at you live tonight with Drew Gregory. I'm Jeff Malott. We got Ryan Lambert up there. We are your hosts. Is that better, Ryan? I didn't call you co-host.
I like it.
We are your host. So if you're just jumping on here with us, please help us out. Give this a share. If you're listening to this on a podcast later, give it a review. That'll help us out as well. Like I said, we've got Drew Gregory with us tonight. Drew, thanks for taking the time, buddy.
Oh, guys, I am pumped up. I'm so excited to talk to you tonight about a ton of cool stuff, and I can't wait to see what kind of questions you guys have to throw at me. Give it your all. Bring your worst. Come on, let's do it.
Bring your worst. Ryan, what do you think about that?
Worst.
Fair enough.
Right.
I hope. Yeah, this is recorded, so we do have evidence that you asked for it. All right,
yeah.
So we're good.
That's right.
So first off, the news has been fantasy kayak fishing. We want to talk about more than that, but we certainly want to hit on that first. But just to test your fantasy sports knowledge, right off the bat, 2020 fantasy football starting. Who's your number one fantasy football pick?
Ooh.
If it was season starting today.
Okay, so this year, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, so I'm a Panthers fan, homer. I took Christian McCaffrey number 2 overall, and I would pick him number 1 next year overall personally, but that's just me. He gets a lot of passes, a lot of PPR points, so you can't go wrong with that.
Okay, fair enough.
McCaffrey was a workhorse this year. I'll give you that. He was. He's, dynamic guy.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens with our QB situation too. If you got if we get rid of Cam, you got some rookie. I don't know. It could make his value go up or down even. Who knows?
Well, my greatest fear was I was gonna come on here with that, and you were gonna say I don't play fantasy sports, but you're good in my book. You're good in my book
you
right
passed.
now. So
we can continue this.
You continue the test. You passed the test. So,
that's right.
So, Ryan, you want to jump on to? We were talking about some of these tiers before we jumped on the podcast, and kind of asking about some of
that. Yeah. So, what was your selection process like when you broke up these tiers? Like, what were you looking at?
No, that's a good call. So let me pull up my my note real quick, so I don't want to miss any way we did this. I can tell you right now, we started looking at 2019's. Where are my stupid notes on my MacBook? But we started looking at 2019's results. So from all the series out there, whether KBF, the Hobie, those are the two main ones, obviously. And we looked at KBF's regional trail series championships and the overall championship. We looked at basically what we did is we just threw people in a spreadsheet. So your name was added to the list if you were like top 10, let's say at a KBF Trail Series regional championship or the Trail Series championship. Then what we did is we looked at the Kayak Bass Fishing National Championship top 50, and we just put you in the spreadsheet. Then we looked at KBF Angler of the Year, the top 40. Bam, if you pop there, put you in a spreadsheet. Again, we're looking for names we haven't seen yet. Obviously, a lot of these names have already showed up. So then we took Hobie Bass Open Series top 10, and if you were in the top 10 at any one of those events, boom, you went into the spreadsheet. And then we looked over here at KBN's power rankings. It's really cool that you guys do that. I don't think I've seen something like that really anywhere else. And it's like a debatable. We have obviously AOY points and stuff, but this is something that sort of you guys come up with, and I don't know exactly what your formula was, but we looked at that and we thought, obviously you guys know all these guys better than I do. You follow them a lot closer than I even have. I had to learn so much about all these anglers, getting into this and doing this process. But because they were on the KBN power rankings all the way down to top 25, if there was anyone we were still missing, we added them from your power rankings. So that's kind of how we got our list. Then if you just showed up one time on one of those things I just talked about, you were in tier 3. And then if you showed up and you were popping several times, say you got a few top 10s, top 5s here and there, but really one, or maybe you won just once, and they didn't really do too much else, then maybe you ended up in tier 2, which is called the Proven Pros. And then obviously if you popped a bunch of times, then we can read over the top 10, but like a Christine Fisher or a Matt Ball or Jody Queen, Matt Scotch, Cody Milton, folks like that, then it was obvious those are going to be our top 10 hammers, and we didn't want to give too many because it's hard to just pick 2 out of even that 10. So we stopped it at 10 hammers, and that's kind of how we did that.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, the top 10, you can't argue with any of those folks being in the Hammers list, but why the tier system and not just one big list?
Okay, that's a good question. So we did tiers because if you do just one big list, then people in tier 3, no one's going to get picked. Even people in tier 2, no one's going to get picked. I mean, if you're picking 6 people, I mean, arguably, I guess that maybe some people in tier 2 would get picked, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's pretty much only going to include all these just top 15, 20 names in the sport for like 95% of the people out there. That's all they're going to pick. So that's why we did it like that in the tiers. And we thought it was easy.
What if you set it up? What if you set it up just like fantasy football, and you had the whole list, but people would group up. You would have a league, a 10 or 12 league, and then you could draft basically.
Well, you could do that, but that costs a ton more money on fantasy. That means like you guys right now, the way it's set up, you actually could make a group for KBN. Right. You are competing against the whole everybody, but then you guys also in your separate group, and this is just like the very beginning of all this, and we can still change a lot and do some cool stuff later in the year as it grows and it becomes more popular. But you definitely couldn't have everyone out there and do like a draft like that. I mean, at least off the bat you couldn't, because we wanted to include everybody, like get everybody in this. Let's see what's going on in one huge group, and then if it's successful and popular, then we can separate off, like you're saying, make it where they can do individual communities, like KBN could do their own draft. But then it even becomes tricky because look how many people would join the KBN league with the draft. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to have hundreds of people in there, and if you're the 200th pick in the KBN league, who are you going to get? See what I'm saying? You definitely need it would have to be leagues that are smaller, like you're saying, like 10, 12 people. And that's just not how fantasy fishing is done anywhere. If any fantasy golf isn't done that way, it's just kind of, you could separate into little groups, you know what I'm saying? Like a group, but you all could still choose. Everybody could choose Matthew Scotch if they wanted to. Everyone could choose Ryan Lambert. So that's kind of how we have it separated now, and we'll keep refining it.
Sure, makes sense. Just curious. I'm not a fantasy fishing veteran. Played a lot of fantasy basketball and football and stuff like that, but wasn't sure how that works. So that makes sense. Just so everybody knows, we got Ryan. His audio feed is working, but the video feed is locking up. I don't know why, but you can just look at his smiling face there, and we can hear him just fine. So we'll roll that right.
At least I have the smile on.
Yeah.
Just to keep everybody updated, I'm continuously drinking a Beta Andy Gator. So just imagine that in your head. Swig after swig.
Swig after swig. I don't know if I can.
Hey, you're not freezing on me.
No,
you're not freezing on me. So maybe it's, I don't know.
Could just be the
Jeff turned me off.
I turned him into a stone cold ice sculpture of Ryan Lambert. No, I think the sometimes the Skype to streaming software, there's a little hiccup in between, but the audio is good, so we'll just keep pressing on. Hopefully it'll break loose.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. You talked about the tiers and how you discovered that, but I'm going to ask you the question that everybody's asked me is, sure, why is Chad Hoover and Gene Jensen on the second tier?
Well, the second tier is called Proven Pros, and obviously we're doing tournaments here. And back in the day, you guys may not realize this, but those guys have fished tournaments before and done well. So we feel like it was good to put them in that tier. But think about it this way: if that is your take on it, right? That's your take. Then they're probably going to go very low owned. If you're like, oh, why are they on? Shouldn't they be in tier 3 at least? If they go low owned, then there's a good and a bad to being in a tier that above where you probably most people think you could or should go. That's obviously everything's debatable. There's a pro and con to it, because if you are just barely kind of make that next tier, and most people probably see that, then you're going to go very low owned. If you're very low owned, that means not a lot of people are picking you, not as many people are following you, and I mean, they want everyone, I think, wants people to win. Obviously, no one's like, wishing ill on anybody, but not as many people are going to be picking you, on your team. So there's a good and bad to it. So if you feel that way, then maybe other people do, maybe they don't.
But as we talked about the qualification process, though, and how you guys selected the tiers, as far as tournament performance goes, I think it was just that the what was it, Eric Jackson World Championships that you guys fished there. That was his only tournament this year, wasn't it?
For Chad? Yeah, for this year. I mean, it was what it was is it was also, I mean, you're right, there's one more thing we did take into account. It's just overall, if we knew they were going to be fishing tournaments and they were a good angler, we could throw them in there like a Gene and a Chad. We know they can fish. Obviously, he started KBF. He does, the show. We've seen him. We know he can fish. So, yeah, we threw those guys in there extra, and it doesn't really matter. No one should get caught up on, like, who's in this tier and that tier. This isn't a power ranking.
That's right.
It's not a power ranking. If you think that, it doesn't matter, because if you think those guys, you say if Chad didn't perform well in that one tournament or whatever, and you think he's not going to be a good guy to pick, well then, let other people pick him. That gives you an advantage in the game, dude. Shh, that's good for you. It's not. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know how many people are going to actually pick him or anything.
Yeah.
We were just curious, and a lot of people ask why. Yeah. Do you have confirmation then that those guys are going to fish tournaments this year?
Yeah, for sure.
I
do.
They're going to be at Seminole next week.
I don't know about that. But
no.
I know that Chad said he's going to fish some BASS events, and I haven't talked to Gene personally, but I've heard on good authority that he's going to be fishing some. I know he's going to fish the national championship. He did say that, and he did get third on Gunnersville last year on the Trail Series tournament out of 167. And so obviously you can win the most money at the national championship of anything. And we're going, by the way, if you guys out there aren't familiar to the fantasy game and how it works, we're going on money earned. So anybody who fishes the Pro Tours, the Bassmaster one, the Hobie Bass Open Series, or KBF Pro Tour, those 27 tournaments is all that we're counting money for. That's it. So anyway, you can win a lot of the national championship, and Gene is fishing that. So we put him there, and we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens in terms of.
Does Chad get points for money earned off tournaments that he's running?
But that's definitely.
Basically, those guys got like the Gerald Swindle Legends exception, whatever.
Sort of, yeah. We just knew they would get picked. Their name recognition.
Jimmy Houston's still out there letting that hair fly, boy. Don't you get confused.
That's right.
That's right. And then maybe it's like DraftKings. If you play, this is what this is. It's like DraftKings. If a running back is $7,000 on DraftKings, but then all of a sudden there's his backup is $3,500, and all of a sudden he gets hurt, the starter, and now the price is $3,000. So there's going to be people that are super values and people that are there to sort of tease you, because maybe the starting running back they don't say he's not playing, and he actually is active, but they don't actually play him in the game. But he was $7,000. So the proof will become evident as the season goes along. You know what I'm saying? And everybody, if you're, again, this was not a power rankings. I don't have time to look into so much detail. As long as somebody in tier 3 isn't in tier 3 that should be in tier 1, we're okay. And as long as somebody, you know what I'm saying, or the opposite, if someone should be in tier 3 and they're in tier 1 or the vice versa, we're okay. And then that gives you a value, a chance. And the way you win this game, let's take somebody else as an example in tier 2 that you think maybe shouldn't be in tier 2, or tier 1 that shouldn't be in tier 1. They're going to go super low owned. If that's true and other people feel the same way, a very small amount of people are going to actually pick that person. And if that happens and that person pops and wins a bunch of events or gets really high at the national championship, and the person that's very chalky, that's picked highly at the very top, let's just use an example like Cody Milton or Christine, I know they're going to be highly owned. A lot of people have them, and they don't do as well as they think. The person who is less owned, if you own that person, you just flip that much money on the whole field, and now you have a major advantage. That's how you win this thing. So you need to find those picks that are the debatable picks either direction, if that makes sense. So it's not a power.
Look for some sleepers is what you're saying.
Look for sleepers, right. And this was not
because it's total overall dollar value on your whole team, right? Okay.
That's right. That's right. Bonus bucks count. Things like that count. Big bass. It all adds up. So we'll see how that plays out. And we'll have a good list of all 3 trails together, a good money list, just like the PGA Tour money list. So we'll be able to see how much money everyone's bringing in. I don't think there's anything that's doing that collectively, or even a way that's ever been done even on one of those series. There's a list that we can actually see. I don't know if that's true. On Hobie Bass Open, is there a list last year of how much money everybody earned? Was that ever put out? Okay, so this is cool because it's not just going to get, Hobie and KBF and Bass. It's going to get them all together, and so really just to promote the anglers. and those 3 trails. So
it sounds like the game is going to be within the game. I mean, if you pick the guy that wins the Natty, you're going to probably win or be up there. But if not, you're going to have to pick. You're going to have to think about which trails are going to have the most attendance because those are going to have the biggest payout. Because if you pick wrong,
and I mean, honestly, it's not even about the attendance. Like, KBF's is like, even if it's fully attended, isn't it still capped? I mean, it's still $4 or $5 grand less than Hobie's, right?
Yeah, I think so.
At the same attendance.
I think it's tiered this year, but I think that's just an interesting part of the game, don't you think? You're going to have to figure out who's going where.
Who's fishing what, basically, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what you got to do. And so that's the reason why this is awesome, because everybody, all you guys out there listening right now and watching, you can go follow every one of these anglers on social media, and you're going to get information from them. You're going to see kind of what they're doing, and you don't have much longer. I mean, it locks on the 30th, but that's why I think next year you could maybe do tournament by tournament games, you know what I'm saying, or even a quarter of the season, whatever, kind of do 4 quarters. But follow them all on social media, because that's going to help you at least get some idea of kind of what their plans are and what they're doing. You know what I mean? Because that is a big part of it.
Can I get Shane Williams added to Tier 3 because he's my sleeper? He has won pre-fishing at Seminole so far. I'm putting all my money on him. So if we can get Shane added to Tier 3, that'd be great.
Do it. Send me a note.
I'm kidding. That's probably the only bass tournament Shane's going to fish this year, so I'm not gonna throw him out like that.
Is there a write-in option, or is it whoever's on there is on there?
Yeah. No, you can still get in until I believe tomorrow is the last day. You could actually write us and say, "Hey, I want to be in." Here, send us a photo. Send us a quick bio if you want a bio in there, and we'll add you to the game. Send us your hometown. Just do that. Just message myself for Chris. He's my co-host on the Hooked on Wild Waters podcast. You guys can follow that. We're going to talk a lot about this fantasy kayak bass fishing on that this year as well. So. Yeah, just message us on Facebook. We'll add you. No problem.
I got you. Well, we got a lot of fantasy sports fans on here. A lot of guys that do the fantasy fishing, so I bet some folks will have some fun with this. I think, Ryan, didn't you win the KBN League or come in second or something?
Yeah, I won.
Yeah,
on that one. Is that the one with Steve-O?
Yeah, you beat me in the semifinals, you dirtbag, on the last night.
But anyway. You're right, I did. I know what I'm doing.
Here comes.
I'm gonna slide in. I'm gonna sign up on this, and Katie Back, of course. She keeps us hot on them links. MVP. So she has shared the link to the sign up, and also Drew's Hooked on Wild Waters link as well to Facebook. So that should give folks the information they need to find out how to get signed up and pick your team and get this thing rolling.
Sweet. That's awesome. Thanks, guys. And right now, we actually filled up one group already. I think I had 250 in it, and another one's starting to fill up now. But it doesn't really matter. It just caps at 250. Once we're all in this thing together, we're still going to have one total leaderboard between both of the leagues, if you will. So don't worry about it if you don't see 250 people in it. I think the new one's probably got, 40 or 50 right now. So
is there any kind of payout for this thing?
Yeah. There's prizes, and you can sign up until the 30th. Right. So you can actually sign up the day that the 10 Invitational ends, and that money will count. It's not going to be, I don't think a ton of people are in that, but that money will count. So anyway, you can sign up all the way up until the 30th, and then the national championship, the 10 counts, the Hobie Tournament of Champions counts, some extra tournaments, little side things like that will count. But again, up until the 30th, hookedonwildwaters.com, click on fantasy up top, and you can figure it out.
Let me press pause for a minute. When is the 10? When is that happening?
That's Friday and Saturday.
So I can make a team after that?
No, not the 10, just the 10 Invitational, because that amount of money is not going to make a difference. Like whoever wins the 10 is getting 10 grand. So we had to start it the day before the 10 starts. But I mean, technically, you could probably see the results of the 10 Invitational, and whoever wins, whatever it's going to be, I don't know, $1,500, $2,000, I don't know.
I got you.
But it's not going to make a difference in the grand scheme of things of 27.
I thought you were saying the 10. I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
No, you can't. Yeah. It's going to lock on the 30th, so sign up by the 30th.
All right. Gotcha. Okay. Do gift cards count? Like, we had at that FLW event, we had like the DZ gift cards. Is that stuff factored in? Do you factor in IOU gift cards or anything?
No gift cards. No gift cards. But we are going to have prizes, so this is going to be fun and competitive, guys. It's really meant to just sort of unify everybody here, let's just all get in this, have a good time, promote the trails, promote the anglers, because those trails especially, those guys are working their butts off to put this on. This is not easy. So we are going to give away prizes. We're trying to keep it free for all of you guys out there that are playing this first year. Our website that we work with, it's called Fantasizer. They helped us build a fantasy league out of this, and they cut us a pretty good deal. It still costs a pretty good amount of money, but we're going to try to keep it free. But we are asking for you guys to, if you feel led to donate, on the rules page, you can read down there. I've got a Venmo account and my PayPal account. You guys can send $5-10 if you want. That'd help us out a lot. At least get the cost of this league covered. So that'd be cool. We just wanted to leave this sponsorless, completely sponsorless. That way, no one feels alienated. Because if we added a headline sponsor and they happen to be affiliated with, BASS Kayak or Hobie or KBF, then all of a sudden it could sort of alienate people. So we're just trying to keep this all, sponsorless, and we just have fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I like the idea,
yeah.
And I like. This is the first year, and with anything, it's going to evolve and get better. So I think it'd be fun to watch going down the road as we continue to grow with these bigger platforms kind of stepping in. I think it'll be cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. Now, if you're just now jumping on here with us, guys, help us out and give this live stream a share. People can see Ryan's smiling face. It still hasn't broke loose, but that's okay. Still hearing him
I'm still smiling, Jeff. I'm still
hearing him just fine. Ryan, let's get into some other stuff. We got some kayak fishing stuff going on. The season's about to kick off. We've got some things we want to talk about. So, Drew, you said you were up for anything, so here we go.
Sure, man.
So I'm gonna tell the story of how this transpired on my end, Drew. So Drew messaged me about stats for 2019. Well, in the Facebook message, it was actually a reply from like 2015. So the background behind that is, I had just started kayak fishing the year before. We went down to Astor, Florida. I met Drew. We actually had breakfast there at there's a little gift shop there at the place we were staying. It was for the Kayak Bass Series, which was this was the first national level big buy-in event. A lot of people that are coming into things in the last few years, they don't even appreciate kind of what laid the groundwork for this. But honestly, man, the Kayak Bass Series is what really, first kind of put that national trail idea in everybody's heads. And we were down there for the first one. There was Drew, 16, 120, something like that. Guys from all over the country that went down. Jackson Kayak went down.
Yeah, maybe. And I don't really remember the total number of people. I just remember I got third.
Yeah, no, it was 100 something. It was a tough freaking bite. It was a cold front, like 36 degrees, because that's what always happens in Florida. Anyway, I'd met Drew and I sent him a message. I was like, hey, man, it's good talking to you. Like, how did you get to where you're at in the sport? Because, I see this guy down here. He's got all these sponsors. I think Jameson was down there filming you. Y'all were doing a little thing for Hook on Wild Waters. And I was interested in that. So it was hilarious that was the reply. Like,
I know,
5 years down the road of kind of where we're at now. That was, it's crazy how far the sport in itself has gone, not to mention KBS isn't around anymore. Now we're sitting here talking about Bassmaster coming on. Like, if you would have asked me then if I would have thought Bassmaster would be having a kayak trail, the answer would definitely been no. So, it's kind of fun to sit back and watch where everything's going. And like you said, you finished third in that one and cut a check. If I'm not mistaken, did you win or finish first or second, like one of the first like KBF Santee Cooper events?
Yeah, I lost a tiebreaker. We were tied for first. I guess I lost it to Tony Yang and got second. It was actually the KBF Invitational. So that's the one I lost. The very first. That was really.
Story. It was like they opened it up to open the waters up. It was like some smaller bodies of water or something that was supposed to be the championship, right?
Yeah, really cool, man. I caught some fish off that. It was actually cool because they're filming me. Chad's crew was there. They were filming me, and I actually pulled a buck off a bed, and I hooked it to a fish grip on my kayak after I scored it. Then I caught the female, about 5.5, 6 pounder, and that let them both go. So it was pretty cool because that was, perfectly legal. I don't know if there's any rules against that now. I don't know. I think you have to let the fish go immediately. I don't think you could do that now. But I actually need to look into that. because spring's about to be here. Can you do that?
No.
Can you not?
You can't do that in Hobie events anyway.
Yeah. Back then, anyway, I just kept it on a fish grip in the water. But yeah, it ended up. It was a good time. It was definitely sort of one of the big events that I feel started a lot of this. And then I did river bass and tournament trail early on too, just focused on rivers, and that was kind of a big. It's hard to be national because you got to. If you're saying national, you mean you're out west and in central U.S. and whatever. But I was, for most part, national with that. From sort of where you are, Jeff. We done some events over there. Arkansas and all that area, and then over. So all that sort of is a culmination. Chad and KBF definitely just kept going and grinding hard and took it to another level. And the rivers were more of a niche, so I don't think the rivers ever could have got that big anyway. But I'm happy to be competing, man. It's hard to run those trails, so I'm happy to be competing. And Ryan, I felt.
So is river bassing over with? I mean, are you kind of moving on from that?
I mean, it's not over with forever. It's something that I want to possibly get going again somehow, or tied into maybe some of these other trails somehow. I don't know, but it's too cool of a thing. So many people loved it. I mean, they love it, and everyone messages me all the time and says, bring it back. And I mean, it's so hard on me, and I got a wife and a kid now. It's just hard, and not that fishing the tournaments, I'm still traveling there, but it's a different sort of animal.
Well, I know you've done some shoal bass fishing down down in the South Georgia region, and Shane and Everett with Yak Addicts, they used to do the Three Rivers Throwdown. We had to cancel it last year due to horrendous weather, but that was always a good tournament. We always had a pretty good turnout for it. I mean, fishing rivers is kind of it's a different animal. I mean, it's number one, trying to pick your water. You got to try to pick a stretch. It's not going to be overcrowded with people, but I mean, it's a different logic behind how you pre-fish for a tournament. I kind of liked it. I mean, I don't think, if you did a trail that was just rivers, I think that's much better than doing a river event. I think if you just do a one-off river event, it's much tougher, as far as the popular sections of water go. I think it's a lot harder to get away from people doing that way. But I mean, I think I like the trail idea.
Yeah, your team aspect of that helped because you could shuttle. I remember doing that.
Mm-hmm. But, team was cool.
But was it a numbers game, or what happened? Or was it just a time consumption kind of a deal for you?
Well, here's the deal. I mean, I'm doing it part-time. I'm working full-time with Jackson Kayak, and you're putting just part-time effort in something like that. You're never going to be able to get it off the ground big time like, KBF. Chad put in all of his efforts, you know what I mean? That's like solely what he did to kind of grow that, and that's what it takes. I mean, you had to make a choice. Either you're going to go full-time trying to run this thing, and I was just like, I would, now that there's big pro tours, right, for kayak fishermen, and I'm still young enough where I feel like I can compete and win money and have a good time, and just, it's more relaxing, right? Just go out there and fish for fun in a tournament than just put one on. So I decided, hey, I'll still have this energy and somewhat youth, I'm kind of getting up there now, but left. I feel like I got 15 good years of just hardcore, like, going at it.
How old are you, Drew? How old are you?
I'm 40 on the dot, man.
I don't even want to hear about it, bro. Come on.
Yeah, Jeff's got about 3 years left.
This is my retirement tour this year, I think.
we thought Jeff went down on us last year.
Yeah,
we thought that was it. We had to send out, Jeff's got a Life Alert necklace on right now.
Yeah, just see it underneath my shirt right there. It's horrible. Reading glasses, hearing aids, horrible. So, have you fished a Hobie event yet, Drew?
I fished a satellite event last year.
I
only fished 5 tournaments, not an open. I fished 5 tournaments last year. That's it. I only had, so much time to kind of get into it last year.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, you talked about committing to it full time, and hopefully you can get to one this year and see what AJ has done. I mean, you talk about somebody that's committed full time work to pull something off. It's amazing. I mean. Hopefully the Bassmaster Series follows suit, but the BOS is man, it's pro level right now. Every event that I went to was that way.
So I had questions about it. I fished the Kentucky Lake Open that they have, the BOS Open, and I fished it I think 4 years now. And I mean, it's a good event, it's a great event, but in my mind that was like their one big event. So I'm like, are they going to put the same effort into every single event? And they do. I mean, it's there's no like I can't I can't knock anything about it. Like they go all in on every event. That was that was impressive to me to see. You know, it's a step up from what we're used to because, I mean, even our local stuff, like our state championship, we had it at a great venue this year in Dayton, Tennessee. I mean, it's still a pavilion, everybody's sitting around picnic tables and whatnot. You know, you walk into a place that's air conditioned, number one, after you've been fishing all day, and white tablecloths and a giant backdrop and some MLF pros there hanging out with you, like, it's a different vibe. It is, you know, it was a level up, and I like seeing that competition, how everybody's going to kind of push each other, and you see it with the payouts this year on the 10. Like the TOC pushed that bar. They said, all right, we're going to take 50 guys, and if you get in the top 10, you're paid. And I like that the 10 is now paying all the way down through the scale because those guys are still investing a good bit to go down to Florida to fish that. So I think it's awesome that, you know, everybody's kind of driving everybody to move forward and step up.
Yeah. I'm going to be at Seminole most likely, unless I win the 10 Invitational. I'm going to try to hit Seminole on my way back up. So I may see you guys there, whoever's, you know, going to be there. Ryan, you're going to be there, right?
Yep, I'll be there Tuesday.
So I will see you guys there unless I happen to win the 10 Invitational, which I'm on fish in Florida. I was there in December, and I did find some fish, so I don't know if they're still going to be there. I left some there.
I saw them in December.
They're there.
Waiting on me.
And I feel like this is the kind of bite that won't leave, I feel like, even to this point. But we'll see. I got 2 days to pre-fish for it. And if I don't win to get into the 10, I'll see you guys at Seminole. I only have 1 day because I got to get up there immediately that night. You know, on Thursday night, I got to get up to Seminole, pre-fish on Friday, just 1 day. But I'm just going to swing for the fences, you know, just have 1 day up there and just see what I can do.
You throwing a chatterbait in Florida?
I was a little bit, turbo crawls. Buzzbait? Hey, listen, I got a video.
No, you're not buzzbaiting. Don't tell me that.
In Florida, I got a video. I'll show it to you. I'm going to post this video tomorrow or the next day on YouTube. I'm doing a preview tournament, a preview video for every tournament I fished this year. And since I was down there in December, I'm previewing the 10 Invitational on the 10, you know, the Kissimmee chain. And I've got all kinds of video, buzzbait, you know, it was warm back there in December. And they were crushing it. So it was a buzzbait game, a spinnerbait game, chatterbait, you know, turbo cross, flipping into some thick stuff. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm excited if it doesn't work out, I'm excited to get up there and try to hit the Flint River. The bad news is I've been looking at river gauges. Flint is blown out, and the shoal bass up there, it's tough. It's really hard when it gets super cold.
Flint stays muddy generally, but that I will say, if you're going to bet on shoal bass, beating the largemouth on Seminole that'll be a close race because there's some nice fish hiding up in that grass down there. There's some nice dark Florida strain.
I saw Shane and Cottrell throwing some pictures up over the last few weeks, right?
I know, man. They're going down there trying to scare people. Ain't nobody scared of that pre-fishing stuff. It'll be all right. Ain't letting them fool me. We'll be at
you got to do it for 2 days.
Night down there. Big gyms every night. That's a spot on Seminole. If you're looking for some camaraderie, that's the place to go.
All right, well, maybe I'll see you guys there.
I'm gonna be missing that one. You gonna come over to Lake Fork possibly there, Drew, for anything over in Texas?
Maybe. Matthew Scotch was trying to convince me to get on over there and you know, visit his neck of the woods. But I don't know if I'll be able to make it to that one or not. We'll see. I am gonna try to make the Hobie Bass Open on Lake Erie because my in-laws live in the Cleveland area, Cleveland, Akron, so it's not very far at all. So I'm gonna try to get over there and hit the Erie tournament. I've never fished Erie. Never.
Are you fishing the Classic on Logan Martin?
I'll fish that, yeah. I'll be fishing it. Okay. I'm excited about it. So
that'll be good.
I went over there and rode around the other day, and while the lakes at Winterpool marked some stump beds and road beds and stuff. So,
yeah, smart.
So hopefully I'll have something to look for in the spring.
Yeah.
Hey, Katie, shut your mouth with the Cleveland sucks. I'm from Ohio. She's in the comments hating on Cleveland. Cleveland's all right. So, Drew, you're talking about you're traveling to some of these different tournaments, you know, between the three major organizations, and then, you know, there's some big local trails and regional trails and all that kind of stuff out there. But between the three, there's some rule differences. Some, you know, all the measuring is kind of the same, but we're talking about there's rules on pre-fishing, on using guides, on using motors. What are some of your thoughts on that? And making the jump.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be awesome if we can get a standard out there. You know, I personally feel like there does need to be a standard on at some point. You guys can agree or disagree. I'd love to hear your take on it. But I think one of the big things we got to figure out is a standard. If you're actually getting a pro tour level tournament trail, I don't know if this is what these are yet, even because they're only $200, $250 to enter. They're not like 5,000, like FLW or something. But if you're going to do that, and you're going to call them pro tour events, at some point we will need to put a limit on how many days like a pre-fishing shutoff period, and then a window on how many days you can pre-fish. My suggestion is 2 weekends before the event, that Friday, you open it up and you say you could fish 5 days between now and the start of the tournament. That's it. 5 days max. Now, here's why I say that, because here's what I predict is going to happen. The folks that are actually doing this full time, I say I'm fishing 10 or 12, but I'm not like, this isn't my job. I'm not full time doing it. I'm not going to be there camping out 2 weeks before events. I can't do that. I have a full time job, work for Jackson Kayak. I got lots of other sponsors I do stuff for. So, I'm not fishing tournaments full time, but there are people who are out there who are doing it, and this is awesome. But the problem is, if somebody camps out there, there's few people or a handful of people, and they're camping on these places for 2 weeks, they're going to start winning most of the events, and they probably, won a lot of the events to this point, and that's awesome for them. But the bad thing is we all need numbers. We need this to grow. So it's going to start eliminating the guys with a full-time job that only has so many vacation days and has got the family, the kids, and you're going to start losing numbers because you say, why am I going to go enter? Because so-and-so is out there for 2 weeks before just pounding it. I'm not going to win. Just throw my money away to him. But here's the cool thing. I talked to Cody Milton about this, and I said, because he's a guy that can do that. And I said, hey, Cody, because here's the deal. If you're trying to do this for a living, this kind of goes back to the original message I responded to you with, Ryan, which, by the way, I felt horrible, man, when I saw that message. I felt horrible. I was like, oh, my goodness, I never responded because,
Don't worry, that kid figured it out. Don't worry.
He did. That's what I said to you. I said, you did a good job. You figured out you didn't need my advice anyway. But here's the thing, though. The biggest part, any Bassmaster Pro or FLW, Major League Fishing, they'll tell you they do tournaments, but the majority of what they do is marketing. Their business relationships and sponsorships with these companies. It takes a ton of time to develop those relationships and develop the content those companies need. They need you out there shooting videos with tip videos, reviews, photos. They need content from you. If you're out there 2-3 weeks, because there's no rule for pre-fishing, you're going out there because you feel like if I'm not out there, somebody else is, because they're allowed to. Because they're allowed to, they're going to be out there doing it. So it takes a lot of load off the shoulders of those people who do have the ability to do that right now, because they just don't need to, but they'll feel like they have to because somebody else is going to. So it's a win.
So I'm going to say, so Christine, she just commented, not so fast. Most guys spending over a week start spinning out. I think there's no replacement for time on the water, especially when it's new water. Like if we all go to some lake we've never seen before, you give one person 2 weeks, you give one person 3 days. If they're, semi-equal skill set, the person with 2 weeks should kick the hell out of the person with 2 or 3 days. I mean, that. I don't think there's an argument there. And I agree. I would love to see that rule set, implemented. I think power boats is a big thing. I know, we were fishing the FLW Nickajack, Drew, and I was, so I live there, and I've grown up there. I don't ever fish up where we ran into each other, but I didn't pre-fish on purpose because I've grown up on that lake, and I don't really like it, to be honest with you, at all. So I gave myself that day to pre-fish. I said, I'm going to go out for 3 hours. If I can find a pattern, that's where I'm going to fish. If I can't, then I'll go out to some of these road beds and grass mats and try to pull something out. But, so what's your opinion on power boats or local knowledge? Like, do you feel like there should be a lie detector? Do you feel like, how should we implement that? Because, fishing with a local hammer in an area may help you more than 2 weeks on the water.
Yeah, that's true. That's a tough one. That one I'd almost say let's lean towards what they've already done in the bass boat side of the world, which I think they actually have different rules. I think Bassmaster has a different rule. They can't talk. Is that right? Bassmaster's one that can't, no information.
Well, MLF too.
No, MLF you can't even talk to the other competitors at all.
So when MLF was in town, we had a kayak tournament the weekend before MLF started. and I went over, Jason Lambert, one of my friends, he was staying at Chester Frost Park. So we went over and we're having beers, and he's asking, you know, we're talking about how the tournament went, and he's like, how'd you do? Well, that's all I can tell him is where I finished. Anything else. I mean, bait, bite, location. He has to call and report to the guy that does the, you know, lie detector test. Like, he has to tell him up front. And
yeah,
I think I do like it. I don't know, number one, if we're ready for that level of scrutiny yet, and number two, who's going to enforce it? You know, because MLF has a huge budget for these kayak trails. Who's going to pay for the lie detector test for the top 10 or, you know, whatever? Like, that's another kind of question mark in the growing pains part.
I agree, but I do agree it's a good rule to have, because I actually feel like there's some joy and some fun I get out of finding it on my own. You know what I mean? I think other people do too. And so, I mean, but if you know other people are going to be talking to locals, then, and if you feel like you know someone that lives there, then it's like, well, I'm within the rules, so I got to do whatever I can because they are.
Oh, for sure.
But bass boats, by the way, I did pass you that day on a bass boat with my buddy Malcolm. I went to college up there in Cleveland, Tennessee, and he's got a bass boat and fishes that river a good bit.
And I talked to him at the ramp afterwards. He's like, dude, we catch some freaking 6-pounders down here. And I was like, great. That's actually the best news I can hear. That's awesome. Yeah.
It did not. I did great in pre-fishing in the kayak and with him, but then they cut the water off, and I couldn't figure it out like you could because I didn't know what happened to him when they cut the water off. But and of course you saw me when my shear pin broke on my prop, and that cost me an hour, and I was like, this is just not my day.
You still owe me
28 or whatever.
By the way.
Yeah, that's right. I do. I appreciate that, man.
What do you guys?
I'm going to pay you back, but I do agree. That's the only time I've ever been pre-fishing in a bass boat, and I was only doing it because obviously my buddy Malcolm was there. He said, "You want to take me out?" I think we should.
That's the
decide.
Thing. It's legal. Like it's if there's not a rule against it, where are you gonna draw the line, and when should we draw the line? I mean, it's all part of the kind of growth of all this, because the more that you see, the more people, and I know Hobie had a big issue with it in the Hobie Bass Open Series on Kentucky Lake. Guys would fly in the day before. Hell, they would buy waypoints off a guide or whatever, or run out in a guide boat, and that's what they would fish the tournament on.
Mm-hmm.
And until there's a rule against it, you can't say it's wrong. I mean, it may be frowned upon, but it's not wrong because there's not a rule against it. So I think if we see this stuff growing, and when $25 tournaments go to $75 tournaments, go to $250 tournaments, like you're going to have to start to escalate the rules along with that, I think.
So do you guys...
guides should be out, dude. Guides should be out for sure.
For sure.
That's ridiculous.
But then the same thing comes into play though. Like, if you got a local hammer that lives on a lake, like, what's the difference between him and a guide? One's getting paid and one's not. I mean, I think if in my opinion, if you draw that line, you have to it's got to be an information line. Like, it's got to be, kind of across the board sort of thing.
A lot of tournaments already have rules that in place that once the tournament starts, you can get information from other competitors. Maybe they could just push that out earlier into the week or a week out or something like that. I mean, maybe that would work.
I like the pre-fishing window type deal too. Like, if you want to go fish there a month before the tournament, that's fine. But I don't think you should be on the water an entire month before the tournament. And I'm not saying, some people can do that. Some people have, they went all in on this, or they have sponsors, or they have a trust fund or whatever. They can go sit out on a lake and fish it for 30 days. But GoFundMe, whatever.
There should be a window. I agree there should be a window. And I mean, look at this Kissimmee chain down there. There's like 10 lakes we can pick from. There's a ton of tournaments you can look at. There's too much water. It would take you need so many days there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would just put a window on it and just cap it at a certain number of days. And it's just the honor system the same way everything else in the water. There's no marshals. All that's honor system. So why not just say, hey, there's a window up until 2 weeks prior to the tournament. And in that 2 weeks, and you're including 2 weekends, so they can have a chance, plus the days before, which people usually go a couple days before, you can fish 5 days. You choose which 5 days. Doesn't matter if they're all in a row. If it's just you go there real quick for a weekend and you go back home, work that week, then you go back right before the tournament for 2 more days. At least then, if you're somebody who's got full-time job, a family, whatever, you can say, I can only fish 2 days before this tournament or 1 day, but the most anybody else can get on me is like 2 or 3 extra days of pre-fishing. That's it. You're not thinking, well, good Lord, they're going to have 2 weeks of the water beforehand on me. So you'll still enter. I think it'll help.
I like it. I mean, I work a job where I travel all the time. So for bigger tournaments, I try to schedule myself to be working near that body of water when I can. And truthfully, where I slack off is like on lakes that are closer to home, like Chickamauga or something. I mean, if you ask me if I can go catch fish on Chickamauga any day of the year, it's a yes. Like, I feel like I can go find some fish out there. Stuff like that will hurt you too. So I feel like if you limit the pre-fishing stuff, it'd probably make everybody, work a little harder. Like, I would make my 5 pre-fishing days count instead of blow off 4 and be like, hell, I'll go out here and find them in 1. Thinking I can catch up to somebody that just spent 2 weeks hammering fish out there.
And do you think we can police that okay? You think it's if some rules were that set in place like that, you think we could police it?
Again, I think that as we see these tournaments grow, Jeff, I really think we're going to have to implement, lie detectors or whatever for you can do it for the people, winning or top 5 or whatever, but you have to put that in people's minds, like, if I'm doing something shady, I might get caught. Like, just that thought's going to deter probably 95% of the people. You're still going to have 5% that are going to push it. Just like the cheaters that we catch now in these tournaments, you're still going to have people that are going to try it. But just the thought of I might get busted in people's heads, I think will be enough to kind of, keep people on the straight and narrow.
That's one thing Terry Manley had going back with the KBS, is they slapped that lie detector on everybody that won. Or at least in the last years of it, they did. So, maybe I don't know how much that cost. I've never had to pay for it.
And that was out of necessity, though, because I remember that. Like, you had one guy that was freaking slaying and all the time, and there was some questionable stuff that went on. There were, pictures of him next to a bass boat tied up under a bridge and stuff. I mean, you have to keep your eyes open. I mean, we know each other for the most part in this community, but you don't. I mean, you can't just trust somebody blind all the time, or else you'll end up with an empty wallet one way or another.
Yeah. I mean, 5 days I feel like is a good number, though. You know what I mean? If we're talking about that rule specifically, 5 days is enough where no one's hardly anybody says, I need to cheat and get 6 or 7, because 5 is like freaking a lot, especially when you got to go fish 2 more days in the tournament. That's enough time. If you made it like 2 days, limited to 2 days, then definitely people are going to be more likely to try to break it, because they're like, I need more than 2 days to get an advantage. So I think if you get the number right, but if you did it 8 or 10 days, then you're going to lose the people that are like, I can't compete with anybody on the water that much.
I think 5 is a fair number. I don't think 2 is enough for me personally, because I usually like to pick out 6 or 8 ramps, and I'll do 2 a day and bounce around until I find either the quality of fish or the numbers of fish that I want to hone in on kind of on that last day to, see if I think I can put together a winning formula for a tournament. Ron Champion brought up a good point. He said the hard part's when events overlap on the same water. And I don't know how many cases we have that happening this year, but I can see his point. Say if Hobie has an event somewhere and then KBF has an event, but I think that would, you'd have to make that more of a case-by-case basis if it did occur. I think for the most part, everybody tries to, either work together or at least not use the same bodies of water. I can't think of too many places where we have successive tournaments that overlap. And Ron, if you can, please pop it up in the comments so we can talk about that.
Maybe these rules and how this develops will not necessarily make people pick certain trails, but it'll kind of lead more people towards one as the national elite circuit and one as more of the weekender circuit or something like that, depending on how this develops. What do y'all think?
I don't know. I don't know if you'll see a full division. I think a lot of people want to fish what's closer and what's convenient to them, no matter who's running it. I think that's kind of still the point that we're at until you see a more kind of loyalist reward as far as the tournament's going. Like if you're getting something out of only fishing this trail or a commitment type deal, for me, I think it's, I think it's going in the right direction. I really do. I like having choices. I like having multiple events that I can pick from on a designated weekend or whatever. So I'm pretty happy with it. What are your thoughts on it, Drew?
Let me real quickly switch to my wife's personal hotspot on her phone because I just ran out of data on mine. So I'm feeling like I'm lagging a little bit, or do I still sound the same and look the same?
You're looking fine.
Think I'm fine?
Sound fine.
You're looking fine. Damn, Jeff, easy.
Yeah, thanks.
You're looking fine.
All right, everyone else. You guys look at the comments. If I'm still okay,
40-year-old self, you're looking fine. No,
so Ron's point that he made was local clubs running events on the same body of water during a pre-fishing period, and I can see that. So I guess that really depends on how many events your local club is running. So for us, we fish Chickamauga and Guntersville, which are two hot spots for trails. So I think that would definitely take a lot more communication with the local tournament directors on scheduling. Can you make your water off limits for a certain number of days? But that being said, if you are running a local tournament during the pre-fishing period, then use one or two of your days on that tournament. Let that be your pre-fishing, but also let that count, for your local club tournaments. I mean, I think you could probably work around that. I don't know. I mean, that's just coming from me. Steve-O has a lot more time on the water locally on Chickamauga than I do. He's out there probably 4 or 5 days a week in the summertime fishing. So I can't speak to that because I'm lucky if I see my house 4 or 5 days a month.
Hey, maybe we can get to the point where Steve-O and AJ make us sign contracts and commit to fishing one trail, and we can do like YouTube videos announcing which one we're going to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope so. Hey, Steve-O would get real mad at me if I didn't sign with him, so that'd be tough.
No, I'm just kidding. It is cool to have options. It's it's going to be a big year for a lot of people, and it really probably enabled you to do this fantasy fishing, Drew, having many more options like this.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be fun, man. I can't wait to see how it goes, and I'm excited to fish a little bit of each of them and just sort of see which ones I like, which formats, which rules. Like you said, there's some things that are different, and then sort of just if you do good in one tournament and one series, you can sort of lean a little bit more that direction. If you might want to go after the AOI. So we'll just have to see. I'm excited.
So I'm going to ask you a question. So kind of away from the tournament stuff, but still related around tournament entities. What's your opinion on like beefing between tournament trails or whatever? I know you ran a trail yourself, and what's your opinion on that?
I mean, I don't know, man. I if I'm another tournament trail, I just sort of, which I was for a while, I just sort of did my own thing. I never really got into a lot of answer or beefing or anything online. I guess I've just never been that kind of person. Put it this way, I don't really know anybody in the industry, and someone messaged me if I'm wrong, that like I'm at odds with, or that, you know what I'm saying? Like I just somehow try to remain friendly to everybody, and if someone does something to me and they want to start something, then it just never happened really. So I don't know. I just wish that everyone definitely could get along and just unify a little bit with rules and everything else. And trails don't have to promote each other per se, but look at the way NFL does football. It'll be on Fox, and they'll say, coming up on CBS tomorrow night, whatever, Patriots, Titans, whatever. If they sort of they just do what they have to do, the minimum, they say this has happened there, and they kind of acknowledge that like that, but they're not like promoting on what, I don't know. Obviously I think it's not the greatest thing for the sport if there's beef, and just just do your own thing, and the anglers will decide, and they'll vote with their entries, and over time we'll just let them decide, and you just keep doing your thing, do the best you can, and keep improving. Kobe, like you said, made a ton of improvements, over the years, and so if they're improving and they're awesome, people are going to fish them this year, and they're going to see that, and they're going to keep voting with their entries, and then same goes with Bass and KBF, and we'll just kind of see what shakes out. I mean, I hope there's enough people, honestly, anglers that enter all of them to where they all can just continue to grow and survive and flourish. That would be my hope for everybody.
I don't think that you'll see anything get pushed out this year at all. I don't see this year. I think the sport it needs, it needs the options, it needs the growth, it needs the opportunities for anglers. I don't think you'll see anything get pushed out this year. I just don't I like it better when people can work together. Well, and personally, Steve-O is one of my best friends in the world, and AJ's one of my really good friends. I talk to both of them almost every day. I know those guys, they care about each other. You know, they're not going to purposefully step on each other's toes. And I think if you can enter every interaction with that in mind, you know, as guys that are involved in two different tournament organizations, I think that's better for everybody. It doesn't just benefit them, but it benefits, you know, the anglers as well. I think, you know, if you start purposefully trying to undermine the other, you hear these back channel conversations at fishing shows, or, you know, playing chicken with 18 wheelers and whatnot. Like, you know, people are looking for, kind of like you said, you know, a unity. Like, if everybody could get on the same page, I think that all three have more than enough support to survive. You know, I think if you try to polarize the thing and you start leaning one way or the other, I think that's when you'll see, you know, trails start to suffer and eventually fade out.
I think Drew said it best. People are going to choose, you know, the entries will tell the tale for over this year and years to come, you know, and it'll kind of play itself out.
Yeah, and as far as the communities and the media or trails and, you know, having at odds or beefing or whatever you want to say with each other, I would just suggest, and I'm going to botch this analogy, I probably will, but I remember there was a joke about this guy, and he went out and he was there was one idiot in the town, the village idiot, basically, in his town, his neighborhood, this kid that everyone knew he was a moron, the biggest idiot. No one respected him. So one day he goes out and he starts arguing with this idiot. He starts like just going at it, and everyone in the neighborhood sees him. And then his dad he goes inside and he said, "What was that about? What were you talking to that guy about?" And he goes, "I was trying to convince him on this and this or whatever." And the dad says, "But why? Everyone knows that guy's an idiot. Now everyone else in the whole neighborhood just saw you talking to an idiot. All they see is two idiots. That's it." So in other words, if we're beefing and we're openly saying negative things, anybody like the trails or communities, whatever, all the actual viewers and the listeners and the people watching see are two idiots. Because you know what I'm saying? Like that sounds harsh.
I'll agree with that 50%. I agree with what you're saying. Like if you have somebody that just continually, you know, is kind of a thorn in your side, like you can't continue to address that, or the only person you're hurting is yourself. On the other side, you know, if there's something that keeps poking, I experienced this at work today in a professional, you know, setting. You can't let somebody continue to bully you over and over and over again. Eventually, you know, you can only be the high road so many times. You have to stand up for yourself and say something. And if that comment gets deleted after 3 hours, then you know, that's on them. But at least you can go to bed at night knowing that you didn't let somebody walk on you. And the point that I'm making with the whole tournament trail is, if you don't try to walk on each other in the first place, then there's nothing to argue about. If you just let everybody be successful and you're not trying to lean one way or the other, then, you know, everybody can
Sure.
kind of coexist. And I see a lot of, you know, back and forth between what we have coming on the scene right now. And I can see definitely, you know, people are trying to butter up to Bass because they think the Bass name is going to be what lasts, because Bassmaster's been around forever. I mean, I think if you focus on your own trail and making it the best that it can be, no matter what the name is on the title, Hobie or KBF, you know, you can build your own future. It's the kayak anglers that are going to choose. Like, there's not many of us that are going to choose Bassmaster just because it's Bassmaster, and I think they're going to run great events. But, you know, for the other two that are on the kayak side of things themselves, you know, I think you got enough loyalty points anyway that you're going to have a following no matter what.
Hey, let me go back to your analogy real quick, Drew. Kayak Bass Nation, our group page, we've got the smartest idiots you've ever seen. So I don't know if that applies over there, present company included. So.
Well, no, I agree with what Ryan said. His response, there's something to that. You can't get bullied forever. All I would say if in the analogy you say, well, take that guy aside in private and go talk to him about it. That way no one sees publicly two people, and then they're just going to be confused. Oh, it's just two idiots. Unless they get pulled out, you get pulled out by that person publicly, then you can.
So that's the trick. Like, what if the conversation already happened privately? And let's say these two entities had a conversation about oh, I built this house. We're letting this other guy play in our own backyard. Well, then you turn around and see them supporting the other entity. I mean, I know there's a lot of business moves that happen. I get it. I mean, we saw it with the FLW deal, the partnership. Like, we know that there's more going on than just kayak fishing. Like, there's ulterior motives. There's bigger pictures involved. But I mean, the people that have been in this, the people that have loyalty, you can't sell out. You can't sell out just because something else comes into town. And that's I'll say that, and I'll be done with it. But I mean, I think you got to stick to your guns. Ultimately, if you keep getting pushed and you keep trying to work with somebody else, and they keep on towing the line, eventually you got to bow up and let them know where you stand.
Yeah. It's tricky. It's a tough situation for sure, man.
It is. It's
tough
involved in all this.
For sure. The odd thing is we're at this time in our sport where it's so young. We know all the players, and that's one thing I think I mentioned in my video. I'm going to post it, like I said, soon. I'm blessed to be one of the guys that I think most people probably consider one of the pioneers in the sport. I mean, developed kayaks with Jackson, the high-low seat, things like that. I've been in it early, you know what I mean? And I'm still around. It's still young. The sport's still early enough where you know me. You guys kind of know me. I'm still here. I'm not dead, right? So same with other people that are the pioneers, right? So how many other sports, my point is, do you know who, if you're a golfer, do you know who started TaylorMade, Ping, Callaway, and do you know if they have beef with each other? Do you care? You just go buy their clubs. You don't care. Do you know who made your the president of Toyota? Do you know who he is? Is he a good guy? Does he have beef with Dodge? Has he screwed them? Public, like, you don't know. You just go buy the best product. That's what we're going to get to eventually. We're going to go
Here's the point where I know, Drew. Boyd Duckett and Bass have a beef, straight up. But anyway, I get your point. I get your point 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the social media, that's communication, social media. But your goal would be to never let anyone know. For business purposes, you would never want anyone to know there's any beef going on, period, ever. And that's the goal. So if you can choose to engage in it and start it, or obviously if it started with you, that's different. But my goal would be, and somehow I've stayed out of all this, best I could, and that's what I'm going to continue to try to do. And I think that's always going to be better for your brand if none of that's going on, because so many people out there don't know really whose fault is this? Who's the blame for this? And it just kind of both sometimes look worse. Both, Boyd Duckett and Bass, they have a beef, and they're making it public and back and forth, and they kind of both could look bad, you know what I mean?
Hopefully it just turns into competition, and competition drives them to get better, just like it will for the kayak world. Everybody's going to get better and improve and try to outrace the other one, just like they did in the actual kayak game with the boats themselves. Speaking of that, we've been here now. Say it again, Ryan. Sorry, buddy.
No, I didn't say anything. Oh. I was just reading Gene's comment. He said, "Hey, y'all, I just want to be your friend. Love y'all."
Thanks, Gene. That's a tier 2 angler chiming in right there. Live.
That is a tier 2 angler.
Hey,
that is a tier 2.
Speaking of what, Gene, the final episode of Hooked in Wild Waters, I got one more left to air pretty soon with Mr. Gene Jensen on the Savannah River. So you guys have to check that out. And the Augusta Shoals is a beautiful episode. I've seen it. Should be soon, so you guys check that out too. Love you too, Gene.
Hey,
I've fished with Gene. Gene can fish. I will admit that. Gene can fish. He may wear a Georgia hat, but he can fish. Christine just asked him if he's fishing any BOS events. I hope that he is. I hope that Gene gets to come see what it's all about. I really do. I know we hype the hell out of it, but honestly, it's second to none that I've ever been a part of, and I can't wait. I literally cannot wait to see what the Bassmaster Classic kayak event is about. I'm very excited to see that.
That's going to be legit. We're kind of pushing our time. We don't have a time limit, but we're over an hour. We usually go around an hour. So before we wrap this thing up, Ryan, didn't we want to ask Drew about kind of the future of Jackson Kayaks and what's going on with Eric Jackson and this new carbon thing, and if he knows anything about it? You want to touch on any of that real quick, Drew?
I don't really know a lot about it, honestly. I mean, I knew before it went public. I saw, Ryan, you made a post about it. I knew that was going on. He was starting that, but I don't really know anything about it, honestly. So I can't really comment on it other than, I mean, it's obviously going to be, Eric Jackson is an incredible marketer. He's got incredible ideas. I'm just excited to see, because on the onset we can only speculate, like, oh man, they're going to be super expensive. Who's going to want that? Whatever. But no one thought that, people would be paying $500 and $600 for a driver, a golf club. You know what I mean? Back 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So who knows, man? That could be the future. And that's like visionaries. They always are seeing well ahead of the time, well ahead. And he may be very much onto something here. We just don't know. And just like the tournaments, people are going to vote with their dollars once that product comes out. So we'll see. If it can give somebody an advantage in competition, then they will continue to push the envelope. Just like if that driver gets you 5 yards or even 1 yard extra, you would spend that money if you're at the ultimate highest level of competition. So anyway, I play golf on the side, so that's why kind of these are coming to my mind.
That. Yeah,
maybe we need to get a little fins and skins going in one of these tournaments. Maybe I'm down for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So loop back to Eric Jackson. Do you felt like he saw in the future when he backed his RV off in the lake launching his boat? Does he have that kind of future view?
When that giant RV went in the water, that's where he had the vision for the Blue Sky Boat Works.
Oh, I got you. No, I see. Hey, listen, last time I saw Drew, he was in a Blue Sky. Was it a motor guide you had on the front?
That's a big stable son of a gun, man.
Yep, that's exactly what he was in. Up there, we were in the tailwaters, man, fishing that swift water in the Blue Sky. Right. I watched him all day long.
I demoed
it's a fun boat.
I demoed one at PSR. It's a big old stable deck. I mean, that's for sure. So
it is. You can't argue with
Absolutely.
That. It is.
Absolutely.
I'm good, Jeff. I've got my punch list has been checked off. Drew, we appreciate you coming on. From me, if Jeff has anything else, we'll go ahead and round that out.
No, man. I just want to wish everybody luck that's traveling down to Seminole next week. I'm not going to be there, but I'll see everybody at Fork at the end of February. I'm excited to see the season get kicked off. Jacked up to see who comes out on top early. I know there's a new AOY race thing with that. I'm anxious to follow that along. And the bass season starts right at the beginning of March, so it's time. 2020 tourney season is here. It's time. So good luck to everybody that's getting started.
It's on.
But, Drew, we'll
see you on the
buddy.
road. We appreciate you coming on, Drew.
Thanks, guys. Thank you to everybody that is watching here, and just appreciate you guys and what y'all do to try to grow the sport in the community. And let's just hopefully have this season be amazing, incredible, just a good time. And much love to everybody out there and all the trails, and just appreciation for what they do for all of us. And we'll see you guys on the water, I'm sure.
You bet. All right, Drew, we appreciate you guys, and we are out of here. Catch you next time.